Everywhere in the world, Sony was dominating. And like, Nintendo was doing pretty good too. It had a strong fan base.
So interesting fact, right? When the PlayStation came out in Australia, no one really had CD players. I mean, tapes were still in really high demand.
If you walked into a store and you saw PlayStations everywhere, one of the key points they used to market the thing was that it plays audio CDs. And I guess they thought the Australian market would love that, they really pushed it. Problem was, it was really only people with money who could buy the CDs, the early adopters. People like my dad.
That's not cool, right? And I guess also my dad wanted a CD player that would match the television, being Sony, grey and boxy.
Look, I saved up my money anyway, and I bought a Saturn. Alright, so obviously we were all holding our breath for the next big thing. After the success of the Sega Saturn, Sega had one more surprise up its sleeve, the Dreamcast. By the time the Dreamcast came out, disc-based games were pretty much the norm. Just looking at this thing, it's totally built like a hardcore games machine. It's pretty heavy, it's got 4 mean-as controller ports lining the front, and it has internet ports. I didn't even know what the internet was until we got this machine. And check out these controllers. They totally just sit in your hands, and I really don't think I've held a much more comfortable controller than this. Your visual memory unit plugs straight into your controller, so each player could have their own saves, settings and memory. And the VMU has this little window which gives you some pretty rad animations, and game titles. If you unplug it from the controller, you can actually use it as its own handheld device, with games you've either downloaded or installed through another Dreamcast game.
What makes a console great, apart from being built by Sega, was the games. The collection of arcade games, especially fighting titles.
If you hadn't guessed, I spent a lot of time on the streets, roaming around. And you need to know how to handle yourself out there. So, when I say what makes an awesome fighting game, I know from first-hand experience. You have your list of Street Fighters, Alpha, Third Strike, Impact, but we also got Final Fight, SNK, King of Fighters, and even the Mortal Kombat Gold. And I've always been a massive Street Fighter fan. Here in Australia, it's the game that separates the casual gamer from the extreme ones like me.
Another great thing about the Dreamcast was that cool kids like me could play those wicked PC games without needing to look like a nerd with a mouse and a keyboard.
Though these were optional extras, but it was a great way to get into Quake 3 and Unreal Tournament, and the Dreamcast was pretty much the first console to give us cooler kids a more PC-like experience. Obviously, the Dreamcast will bring in a massive range of 3D graphics. So look, take it from me, the Dreamcast is going to change the games industry forever. It is such a finely honed machine. So look, hopefully I'll get my hands on a few more Dreamcast games once the system launches in Australia. It's a little bit behind the Japanese and European markets. I'm sure we'll feel the waves of impact the Dreamcast has left for years to come.